Today, I am going to share with you how to make the most delicious and perfect gluten-free banana bread. This recipe is super easy to make. The bread comes out perfect every single time. The flavor is so delicious and the texture is so perfect. No one would ever know that this is a gluten-free banana bread. So make sure to stick around and watch. These are the ingredients that we're going to be using. We're going to be using a 1/3 cup of melted butter. I'm using the salted one. You can use salted, unsalted. To me, it tastes good with the salted one. 3 ripe bananas, 2 large eggs, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. That's it for like our wet ingredients. Then for our dry ingredients, I have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 cup of sugar. You can add more if you want. I just feel like 1/2 cup is the right sweetness for my family. Then here I have 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I am going to be using some baking powder as well. And for this, I'm going to say 1/2 teaspoon of that. The baking soda, I added with the bananas. This I add later on. Something about the chemistry in there, that's how I've learned that my gluten-free loaves come out the perfect consistency that I love. And then I have 1.5 cups of gluten-free flour. I like to use the 101 Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour. I've been using this flour for years now, and I really love how it works with anything that I make. Then I have a mixing bowl, a little masher for my bananas, a little whisk, and then a little spatula to do my mixing at the very end. First, I'm going to start by taking my bananas, putting them in a bowl, and then I'm gonna mash them with my little masher. I like to mash my bananas pretty well. Some people like the big chunks. I personally mash them. Tastes like banana, but there's no big chunks in my bread. I also forgot to mention, preheat your oven at 350 degrees. Now that my bananas are done mashing, this is the consistency I like on my bananas. And to the bananas, I'm going to add the 1 teaspoon of baking soda. It has something to do with the bananas and the acidity they have, that they interact with the baking soda in some sort of a way. So trust me, it works. So I'm adding that to that. Now I'm adding the eggs. Teaspoon of yummy vanilla. All right, now to that I'm adding the third cup of melted butter. Integrate it all together, and I'm gonna go ahead and add the nutmeg, the salt, and the cinnamon. Integrate it nicely together as well. Sugar. Whoa, I made a mess. I guess I lost about 1 teaspoon of sugar. To the 1.5 cups of flour, I'm going to go ahead and add my 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, different people make their banana breads differently. This is just a procedure for my gluten-free bread based on all the times that I've made it. If it's the right or wrong way, I don't know. I just know that my gluten-free banana bread turns out delicious every single time. And my husband and kids and I absolutely love it. Therefore, it's a good recipe. Now, to this, with my spatula, I'm going to go ahead and add in my gluten-free flour to it like this, okay? Now, I like to mix my flour to my wet ingredients using a spatula. And I just work it in like this. I feel like it doesn't get too runny. Anytime that I try to make this with the mixer, I feel like the bread comes out a little bit too, I don't know, not as firm as I like it. So I just do it like this instead. Now, if there's any lumps of flour or something, break it apart like this. But it should be nice and smooth like that, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and be baking this in my glass loaf pan. And I am simply going to go ahead and spray some oil over it.
I'm using this one over here. I get it at Aldi. Or you can line it up with parchment paper. I know people do that too. Now we're simply going to be taking our mix and putting it into our loaf pan like this. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and place this in the oven to bake at 350 degrees for about 50 to 60 minutes, or until you put a fork in it or a toothpick in it and it comes out nice and clear. So, my bread cooked for about 55 minutes, and I just want to show you, look how absolutely beautiful that top is. It's not flat or anything like that. It looks like a beautiful loaf of bread. And this is because of that baking soda and baking powder mixture. It just gives it that lift that I absolutely love. So anytime I make my breads, like my cranberry one or my pumpkin bread, which I have recipes in this channel for, I make them the same way. Now I'm just simply going to let this cool here on the counter for about 30 minutes before I remove it from its glass container.
Now it's your turn to give this delicious gluten-free banana bread recipe a try. I am sure that you and your family are going to absolutely love it. If you enjoyed this recipe, please make sure to check out this next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.